New Year, everyone, and welcome to the first Cooking Without Looking TV show of 2022. I'm Alan Preston.
Yes, and hi, I'm Annette Watkins. Happy New Year, Alan.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year to everyone out there in our virtual world. Today we have a very special show for you because we have a husband and wife team and their son today, Tyler, who's also going to join us. Eric is the executive director of the American Council of the Blind, the ACB, and his lovely wife of 14 years, and they're both gonna be cooking today for us.
And not only that, but their two sons, one of them is 2 years old, and I think the other one is 7 years old. They'll also be joining us.
That's great, and it's pretty basic. 2 parents, 2 kids. But what's interesting about this is that the 2 children of Erica, listen to me. Eric and Rebecca are both sighted, but Eric and Rebecca are totally blind.
Boy, that's a dream for a lot of young kids. Parents couldn't see what they were doing. I know I was there, but I was the other way around. I couldn't see, I couldn't see, and they could, and that's not fair. Anyways.
That's funny.
I know it. All right.
Well, Eric and his wife, Rebecca, don't worry about them. They have this all under control, and they're going to share their experience of parenting 2 sighted children.
That's not all. When cooking in the kitchen, Eric is the sous chef, so to speak, and Rebecca is really the cook. So Eric will show us some of the tips and tricks for cutting in the kitchen.
Wow. And then Rebecca, she's going to get down and show us her spicy chicken leg recipe that Eric loves. And she tries to make it for him at least once a month. I bet she makes them more because he loves those chicken legs.
Well, we've posted the recipe on our website at www.cookingwithoutlookingtv.wordpress.com. And if you want to cook along with us, you're welcome to do so, please.
Great, that would be a lot of fun. And as Eric is the executive director of the ACB, the American Council of the Blind, he oversees an organization that has fostered the independence of blind and visually impaired people. And I will be speaking with him about the mission of the ACB and also some of the goals that they have for 2022.
And just a reminder that all of us on the Cooking Without Looking TV show are blind and visually impaired.
Well, Alan, it's all yours. Take it away, and Eric's going to be showing us some tips on how to cut things up in the kitchen, but to do it safely. So go ahead, and we're going to get started on our Cooking Without Looking, our first show of 2022.
Isn't that wonderful? Yes, we've been on. Thank you, Annette. Eric Bridges began going blind, as I understand it, at about age 2, and he became totally blind while he was in high school. Boy, I can relate to that. Eric, welcome. Could you tell us a little bit about your life as you were growing up as a blind person?
Sure. Well, I grew up in the great state of Iowa, and big Hawkeye fan, go Hawkeyes. I gradually lost my sight, as you referenced. So I was born with all my sight, and then gradually over about a 13-year period, it went away, and was in part due to juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, which is not necessarily all that common. But junior high school, it became quite apparent that my eyes were gonna not be working for very much longer, so I needed to learn Braille, which I didn't want to learn. I needed to learn how to use a cane. I didn't want to learn that. I needed braces. Really didn't want to have those. I got acne. I didn't want that. I was a bundle of
I think a lot of us can relate to a lot of those things. Yes.
So, but eventually, I realized that in order for me to get to where I wanted to go in life, I needed to learn those life skills as a person that was losing their vision. And thankfully, I had, very supportive parents that had expectations for me and what I was going to do with my life, irrespective of my visual acuity. And so we worked through it all. They made deals with me in order to learn Braille. They allowed me to read Stephen King novels to get my Braille proficiency up when I was in junior high, which gave me nightmares, but it and piquing my interest in Braille. So, stuff like that, which I can identify with in a different way these days with 2 young kids. So, it was a good experience. I played sports, I wrestled in high school. I did karate for about 8 years. I played some football until my depth perception got really bad. Then that became dangerous. But yeah, overall, pretty what I would consider normal life. I'm the youngest of 3 kids. I have 2 younger sisters. Or I'm the oldest of 3 kids. How can you be the oldest? Anyway, I'm the oldest of 3 kids. I have 2 younger sisters.
I can kind of relate to a few of those things. Yeah, I had, you were lucky. I had difficulties going through school with my poor eyesight. You're now totally blind, is that correct?
That is correct.
Oh man, yeah, that's yeah. That can I have a little bit of eyesight myself, but not a whole lot. Anyways, Eric, one of our mutual friends asked me to ask you about how you met Rebecca.
Yeah, I met her under a lemon tree.
Oh no!
No. I met her through this guy who is a mutual friend of both Rebecca's and mine, and sounds like yours. A gentleman named Mike Gravitt, who lives in Pittsburgh. Ironically, Rebecca was doing an internship at the American Council of the Blind National Office during the summer of 2003.
He didn't work there, just to be clear.
No,
Eric was not working.
I worked for another organization. So it wasn't an office room. But yeah, she was there. You'd won a scholarship.
Yeah, I was in 2003. It was between my junior and senior year of college, and you'd been out in DC a few years already. And yeah, I had gotten an internship at ACB. It was a paid internship, so it was pretty exciting. I got, I'm from Indiana originally, so coming out to Washington, D.C., you get 2 hours of orientation mobility, like this is the metro and this is your office and this is how to get from your office to the train, how to get from the train to where you're staying, and, have a nice day in the big city. So yeah, at that time I was just starting to get involved in ACB, which is how I met Mike and how Eric met Mike. And so when I was prepared to come out to Washington for my internship, Mike said, hey, I got a couple of friends out there that I'm going to introduce you to. I'll send some emails, some introductions. So you've got some folks when you get there. He said, oh, by the way, this guy is, I think you two would make a good couple. And I just laughed like, oh, Mike, you're a guy. But he was right.
It's a wonderful story. I love it. Was it a true story, Eric?
That's a true story.
Yeah. I love it. Now, I do have one other quick question for you guys. When I was a little kid, I really wished my parents couldn't see what I was doing. Unfortunately, I couldn't see what my parents were doing. How do you guys do this with your kids? Give us a couple of little tips.
Oh, gosh.
Well, when they're
Maybe
really
you don't want to say anything in front of the kids. I'm not sure.
Well, we have the youngest one, Noah. He's 2. He's at daycare right now. Otherwise, he'd be running around looking for something dangerous to do while we're cooking. But, when they're little like that, we use things like bells and beads to, strap to their ankle or to
Or
the
their
back of their
shoes.
shoes or clothing, so that we can hear them when they're around the house. Honey, what else do we do?
I mean, obviously, like anything else, you set up for success, right? So you make sure that things are, baby proofed. You cover all the outlets. You try to prevent as much danger as any parent would. So to be honest, there are just a few kind of, I guess adaptations. So the bells are one. When they're also young.
He kind of sounds like a chihuahua.
Well, he's so loud. He doesn't need bells.
No, that's true.
Once they start really talking and you get comfortable with kind of how they are, we don't use the bells very much anymore, because our children are very verbose and don't have a problem talking and making noise. So we almost always know where they are. But when they're young, one of the things that we worked on, and any of you who have dogs or pets, who are intelligent like dogs would understand sort of this idea around like a call and response. So when you go to the park, for example, we work on, okay, I'm going to say your name, and if you don't say it, we go home immediately. Like if you don't respond immediately, then that's the rule is the game stops and we are done. So you do that in the house, you do it as you go out in the yard and try it. And then you move to the park and, you kind of get a system down where you are able to communicate with your child. And I think, like any other aspect of our lives as people with disabilities, a lot of it too is just about planning and preparedness. So, things like, everywhere we go with little kids anyway, you have to, kids ride in car seats, I feel like now till they're like 25. And so we have to schlep the seats around with us because we strap them into the Uber. And so, and then just, making plans. So how do we want to plan our day, figuring out where we need to go, how we're going to get there, making sure that you are holding hands with your kids when you're walking around or you're connected to them in some way, especially when they're little. I mean, it's going to be a different kind of season as they get older. And, now that our older son is school age, things like, making sure we can get access to the materials that he's studying in school and, communicating ahead of time with staff and educators and other things. Of course, right now, Tyler's homeschooled. So I'm the teacher and everything else too. So generally those are just a few.
And then there's this other thing, it's called trust but verify. When Tyler says that he's done something, verify that he's done it, just like with any other parent and child.
The time you verified that a few times, he knows you're going to do it every time, and that's a good practice to get into. Sounds like you guys have really got things under control. It also sounds like most of these tips are things that normal parents do all the time anyway, with the exception of maybe the bells and a couple of other things.
Yeah, well, we know some sighted folks that use like squeaky shoes and stuff like that too. So yeah.
Those are some really good tips, guys. Anyways, let's see some of those parenting secrets. Yeah, we've done that. Well, anyway, Eric, since you are the sous chef and the family can show us some of your tricks about cutting in the kitchen without cutting your fingers off, among things, please.
Okay.
All right. So we've got my trusty assistant, Tyler, is with me here. Come here.
No.
So we've got some red potatoes here that we're gonna slice, right? We've got a few chopped already. And so there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of whimsy to this, Alan. It's just you you chop and you chop some more. So you use, for me anyway, I'm a righty, so right hand on the knife and
right over here.
and left hand.
Because you need your blood.
I use the tip of my pointer finger on my left hand to sort of guide the knife over, and it's literally on the left hand side of the blade. And looking at this potato, I'd go about center mass. That sounds kind of weird to say that. Anyway, down, and this is half and half right now, and we're going to again to do quarters. So right about there. And
so what you're doing is you're laying the side of the blade against your finger when you're cutting down and judging the thickness of it with both hands.
Yep. Exactly. That is exactly
Dad,
what I'm
can I
doing.
cut the last?
Yes, and Mr. Tyler here really wanted to help, so we're going to let him help. I am not a fast slicer. About the only veggie I can do that with is a cucumber. I'm pretty good, and by that I mean not just doing it fast, but having it be equal size. I'm sure that there are lots of blind folks out there that can do this much better than I can. The one thing I will say is using a mandolin can be great, but it can be also very intimidating. We've been known to use a mandolin around here for potatoes au gratin?
Yeah, like
right?
scallop potatoes,
Scallop
or if you're
potatoes.
doing roasted zucchini, or if
That's
you want
right.
to get a nice thinly sliced vegetable of some kind. You always want to wear your gloves, and there are special gloves that you can purchase for
Can I cut now?
using
Yeah,
when you use the
please
mandolin.
continue.
Explain to me what a mandolin is. I'm not familiar with that term. I don't know how many of our audience
Why
out
don't you
here.
go grab-
I'm gonna get it for you, and we'll show it to you if I can.
I know a little bit about knives, and a mandolin is something I haven't heard of.
So a mandolin is.
Now,
Bruce Hornsby song?
No, it is not. So a mandolin is this device here, and it's kind of flat, and there's a cover here over the top. And if I take the cover, it has a very, very sharp on it.
Yes, okay.
You take your vegetable, and I'm not going to actually do this because my glove is not on my hand. You take it and you just kind of push it across, and it slices, and you can adjust the thickness of your of how thick you want the slices done, like 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so we've been known to use that, but you really need to make sure that you have the proper equipment when you use something, a device like that, because you can cut yourself, because that blade is sharper than any.
It can send you to the emergency room.
Yes.
Theoretically.
I do understand. We don't need any extra protein food, do we?
Yeah. We will not be using that today, by the way.
Good, okay. Yeah, now I know what it is. And oddly enough, I've used those before, and you're right, they are pretty wicked. What are you cutting up there?
Tyler,
Potatoes,
what kind of potatoes?
red.
Red potatoes. That's right.
What are we going to do with our red potatoes? Just
Put
go
'em in the
straight
oven.
in.
We're gonna roast them.
Yes, we're going to roast them, and we'll talk about what we're going to put on them in a few minutes when you are done. Would you like some help?
No.
No.
And I say,
You got
say hi, Tyler.
Sounds like he's taking over here.
Great job.
Well, thank you very much. And we do appreciate those wonderful tips you had, and we're looking forward to hearing more from you about the American Council of the Blind in just a little bit. Right now, Annette.
Yes, Alan. Okay, well, we're ready to move to the second part of this recipe. Now we had the potatoes done by Tyler and his dad. And now Rebecca. Rebecca, before we get started with your recipe, I just want to ask you a couple more lighthearted questions just to follow up with what Alan was talking about, is tips on parenting. I know you said a lot about what you do, using the bells and doing a lot of planning and so forth. there are a couple of things I was just wondering about, if you don't mind me asking you that.
Sure, go for it.
Okay, great. What I was thinking, when you're ready to have a baby, there's so much excitement and things going on for your first child that was like 7 years ago. When is his birthday, by the way?
His birthday's August.
18.
18. That's right.
We are a big August family.
Yes, I went into labor on my birthday, which is August 17th, and he was born on the 18th. And Eric's is the 5th. So it's lots of August in our house. And then Noah is the outlier. His birthday is in December.
Oh, he's the one that gets gypped with the Christmas presents, right?
Pretty
Yes,
much,
exactly.
yes.
Well, that's what I was wondering. When you want to baby proof your house, you got to get the crib, you got to make new arrangements, a lot of stuff going on. Did you have help, like as far as like someone from an outside agency? Did they come in and baby proof your house, or did you guys just do it together? I'm sure you're very capable of doing that, but there's just so much to do. How did you handle all that?
I mean, we did it ourselves. There's so much out there now, on the there's too much on the internet. There are lots of great resources out there just about parenting in general. I think one of the easiest things to do in some weird way is prepare for like the baby stage, right? Because they're babies. And
Right.
it's a huge life change. And there are other things, emotionally and otherwise that people don't always talk about, that maybe they should, about, being a first time parent. But, there's so much information out there on, okay, you need outlet covers and you need cabinet locks and you need da-da-da. And so we just kind of, as he starts, crawling and such, we're okay, well, it's time to put the foam on the fireplace, on the and cushions on the corners of the tables, and of course he ripped them all off. So it really didn't.
That's so funny. Really.
No.
But and we have a lot of there are a lot of awesome blind parents and tremendous networks of blind parents out there that we have been fortunate to plug into. I know there's like on Facebook, there are blind parenting groups like Blind Parent Alliance and Blind Parents Connect that are just a great resources. And of course, we have friends who've had children before we did. So, it's always, they've been great resources for us to kind of bounce things off of. And, hey, how did you manage the car seat? And did you get a stroller? Did you not? That's kind of, we got plugged in and we just kind of figured it out.
And frankly, our families were helpful as well.
Yeah, we have great.
Which anybody that has a baby, the families can play a big role, and unfortunately, our families are not. They're not close by. They're in Iowa or Indiana, but they spent a lot of time out here before Tyler was born, after Tyler was born, and then they were looking for any excuse. At least I know my parents, because Tyler was the first grandchild on my side of the family. So, they were looking for any excuse to come over and
for sure.
drive out, hang out.
Yes, for sure. They want to help. Grandparents want to help as it is. Could you imagine they want to help even more, and they're able to, spend a lot of time with the child while they're there. So that's wonderful. Yeah, I was just curious about that. And it's amazing to me how normal, and you're just an inspiration to everybody, really, because you just make it seem so easy. And sometimes I try to close my eyes.
No, well, parenting isn't easy. So
the parenting part is not easy. And really, I mean, all we're doing is what everybody else is doing. We've got some different sort of strategies at times to accomplish what needs to happen, right? But we share in all the same stress that any other parent. Right.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, because you're a big inspiration. And speaking of parenting being difficult, this is one more thing I was thinking about. As kids, we could be a little mischievous. I don't know if you were, but I know I was. I used to put tags on teachers' chairs, things like that. Your son, Tyler.
Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me?
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I was gonna say, at what age could you sit down, or maybe you approach it differently at various ages, but how could you explain to him, Tyler, don't move that chair. Always leave that chair in that spot, or I would think the worst thing for a blind person if you move the furniture on them. And I don't know if you had to have any talks with him about any particular issues.
Oh yes, the leaving toys on the floor, those are always fun.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Have you guys heard the Geico radio commercial that's come out within the last few weeks?
That's awesome.
The dad is
Turning off all the lights.
turning off all the lights and going up the stairs to go to bed. And as he's turning off the lights, he's stepping on all these tiny toys that their kids have out.
Ouch.
It's hilarious.
I haven't seen that one yet. I'll look for it.
I haven't seen that.
It is our life.
Yeah, like Legos, they could hurt for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and so I think, you always, the child can understand, our kid's pediatrician told me once that, your child can understand almost all of what you're saying to them by the time they're 18 months old. Now, you may not, that may not be obvious to us as their parents, especially if they're not talking a lot. But they, so even, 18 months, 2 years old, it's like, Noah, can you throw that away? Noah, can you pick this up off the floor?
Right.
I think we can always ask that. And it's all about, it's all about repetition, like anything else in parenting and like, training. You don't say it once and everything's figured out. I mean, they have to just, but I think probably maybe 4-ish when they really, I think, really start to internalize it and get it, where, maybe somewhere in 3 and 4 year range, where I feel like, at least with this one over here, that we were kind of in that place where he at least understood, that things kind of needed to be out of the way. Now, whether or not we followed through on that, who knows? But like it is the way it is.
Like in some ways, Rebecca, I think it's even has an advantage to the child, because they're going to be communicating more. They're going to hear you speak more. Therefore, they're going to pick up on language, because I feel that he's very articulate at his age and very intelligent, and knowing what he wants and explaining what he wants and so forth. And I think that's because he had to. You're using verbal cues more than gestures and so forth.
I think you make a really good point that both of our children they're very verbal. And I think a lot of it is because we talk to them. And of course, we don't talk to them like babies. We speak to them normally, and we use words, and we try to encourage them to do the same. And so, even with, when Noah, for example, as he was beginning to talk, there are some frustrating times in that, 1 to 2 year age span.
Last summer.
Yeah, where he's at 18 months or so, and he knows a lot of things and understands a lot of things, but he's not saying a ton yet. And so he would want something, and we wouldn't be able to figure out what it is that he wanted. And I actually had a conversation with his daycare provider about, hey, can you make sure that you're not letting him point to things and then just giving him that? And I don't think she was, okay, because she's been doing this for 30 years and she's amazing.
She also took care of Tyler.
And she watched Tyler as well. So I don't think she was doing that, but I was just trying to reinforce the idea that we can't point in our house. I know she was teaching him sign language and things like that too, because that helps her communicate with the children, which is great. But if he's not signing into our hand, if he's just, flailing away over there, he's not gonna get what he wants.
Exercise in futility.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. I just love what you just explained. Something we don't always think about. But I bet you knew when to change his diaper.
Oh yeah.
We don't have to go any further with that, because we're going to talk some more.
Now we'll leave that. That's another show.
Yeah.
To get the conversation back on track here, Eric and Rebecca, were your parents sighted or were they blind?
Excited.
Yeah,
Both.
mine were cited
Yeah.
as well.
Both cases, they were sighted. So these are skills that you guys have learned all on your own.
Well, I mean, I guess. I mean, yeah. We just.
I'm amazed. You guys have done very well.
Okay, well, let's go back in the kitchen. I think we could talk about this parenting all day because we love our children. We want the best for them. But we want the best food that you have today, Rebecca. And we want to know about your chicken legs, your spicy chicken legs. What is your secret for this recipe? Because your husband, he does flips over it. So what's the secret?
You know what?
The booze.
There are no booze in this. Okay. No. We got the kitchen clown over here.
Love it.
I don't know. I feel like it's the spices. I mean, who doesn't like butter and garlic and
Right. You can't go wrong, right?
no. So
Put that on shoe leather.
right. So right now I have some chicken legs sitting here on
Yeah, you
the
on. Go ahead. Start us off.
okay. So we've got our chicken legs here and I've already rinsed and patted them dry in preparation for our work here. So I'm going to, I'm not making nearly as many chicken legs as the recipe calls for because we're leaving town in a couple days and we don't need that much chicken. So I'm gonna cut the recipe in half here. So I've got a stick of butter that I'm putting in our pot here. And we are going to melt our butter. I'm turning on the stove to like a nice, just medium low heat here. And I'm gonna find my,
By the way, Tyler did a nice job.
good job, my
Chopping.
spoon, but I can't find the one I want. So I'm just gonna grab this one because, hey, we improvise. Okay, so we're gonna just melt our butter. And I like to use a spoon to kind of push the butter around so I can tell I can feel it melting. You don't want it to start, burning or sticking to the pan. So I just kind of push it around a little bit on occasion to see how it's doing. And so that I know that we are melting nicely. Once it's melted, I'll just go ahead and talk through the recipe here.
Okay.
Once we melt our butter, we're going to add some lemon juice, and it's the juice of 2 to 3 lemons. And I'm going to cheat today, and I am just going to use lemon juice in a bottle because that's just how I roll today. So, and then I will add 4 cloves of minced garlic. So that's about a teaspoon or so each. So 4 of those, and I love garlic. And again, I'm cutting the recipe in half, but then it also calls for a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And the cayenne pepper, you need that. That gives it the spice that you need for your spicy chicken
And
legs.
it's good for you too. Cayenne pepper is extremely good for you.
It is, and it's delicious. So I think the secret to this recipe is the garlic mixed with a little bit of, there's also a half a teaspoon of salt as well. I tend to eyeball the salt. I don't always, and that's a funny word for the show, but I tend to kind of approximate on the salt because sometimes I find that it can get a little too salty, certain recipes. So I just kind of
You better get all that butter.
Yeah, there's a lot of salt butter because we're not using unsalted butter.
Good point. Yeah, so you don't want to add salt. But two things I just thought of is, number one, do you take the skin off the chicken legs? I can't see that. And also, yeah.
No.
Okay, so you don't take, so that adds a lot of flavor as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you mentioned your garlic. Do you use one of those gadgets where you put the garlic in and squeeze it?
If I have garlic on hand, yes, I do. I love freshly pressed garlic cloves. But I do find I find that it kind of, if I'm in a hurry or, because it is a little time consuming because you have to pull the garlic cloves off and then you got to take the knife and kind of the flat part and smash it down, and then you
Right.
gotta, it's a whole thing. So yeah, I do that, but today I'm just going to use the good old fashioned garlic in a jar.
Garlic powder, yeah, that's okay too. I mean, they have some really good quality ones now. But I noticed with the mincer, that little gadget where you put the garlic in and you squeeze it, it gives you some forearm muscles. But I never take the skin off, and it's fine. It still just lets the garlic out. So that might be something you could try and not have to take the skin off, because that is a pain to have to take the skin off too, then put it in the little gadget.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've done that before, and it is, I don't know, but I love garlic. So any recipe that calls for garlic, that is a winner.
That's a winner. That's always a winner. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
So-
So now, oops. Okay. So I have my cup now, and I'm just going to go ahead and add about a little less than a quarter cup of lemon juice to this here.
I'm curious how you are measuring that. Are you measuring that in a quarter cup, or do you hold your finger down to the level where you know is a quarter cup?
Yeah, I've got a quarter cup in my hand, and I just put my finger in the top of it, and then it you can do that. So we've got that done. And let's see, and now we will add, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the heat off on the butter because it is done and we don't want it to keep going crazy over here. So now, my rosemary for my potatoes, I don't need that right now. So I'm going to get our garlic going here. I'm going to, well, I'm feeling around for the, here we go. My teaspoon here, and I'm gonna put a few of these in here because I love garlic. So, whoops, and it's going everywhere. Okay. And here we go. And I kind of use the side of my finger to make sure that it's level.
You level it off.
And that it's full of garlic, because who doesn't love garlic? Okay.
Vampires hate it.
I know, right? That's we some garlic a day keeps the vampire.
But the key is that both of you eat the garlic, so that when you kiss, it'll be
Finger.
mutual.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's it.
just
Oh,
like onion.
yes. I'm
Exactly.
gonna add cayenne now, and I said I'm having this recipe, so instead of the full teaspoon, I'm gonna cut that a little bit because otherwise those would be really spicy chicken legs. There we go. Okay. Now I'm gonna throw.
These are great for a party because you just pick them up and eat them. And they're great for like, you got Super Bowl coming up. You can make those.
That's right. Oops. And this is the Cooking Without Looking show. And Rebecca, I just put the cap I just mixed up the caps for my garlic and my cayenne, I think.
Ooh.
There we go. Okay.
But you can always smell the difference.
Well, yeah, the garlic cap is taller, but I grabbed a cap and threw it on the cayenne. So then when it came time to put the cap on the other one, I
Did it
thought,
work?
oh, no, it did not. That's how I knew.
Well, that's good though. This is live TV. We have to see the blunders too, because that's real life. And that's what we do. Renee was telling us about one guy who he thought he was picking up a dishcloth and he put his hand right in whipped cream.
Oh, wow, that's
Right on the camera. So everybody loves that because you're real and you're just plugging away and going with the flow.
And
I'm
that
gonna
was a great recovery too.
I'm gonna add my salt now, and I'm just taking the old salt shaker and giving it a good couple shakes there, and I'm gonna stir that in. And now I'm gonna have to figure out where I put my black pepper and put some of that in there.
It's time.
Knowing your kitchen is important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, where did I put it? Don't know. This is where Tyler. And if
I
he
was
were
gonna say, where's Tyler when you need him?
Yeah.
Your helper's downstairs playing basketball.
oh, he lost him, I think.
Yeah.
I fear. Okay. Well, anyway, this is I don't know what I do with it, so I'll grab a different one. Okay. No worries. We got more pepper. Let's see here.
Knowing your kitchen.
Yes. Knowing my kitchen and knowing where I put things and then trying to find them again.
Yes, that's how I get around here.
Are your spices labeled with Braille on the outside or just different size containers?
That's a really good question. When I am disciplined, they are
Braille.
they're brailled. But sometimes I forget or don't do it.
Right.
So it just
No
depends. It's hit or miss in our house. But the other thing I try to do is once I label a jar once, I'll try to reuse them. So finish one jar of cayenne, for example, I will put the spice the new stuff into that one so that I can so I don't have to redo the label. That's one way to kind of get around.
I'm just asking because I saw it on another show, a very I'm not going to say anal, but another guest had them all labeled with the Braille, and I thought, wow, that's time consuming.
I every couple years I go through and do that, but then I lose my discipline.
Yeah, I can relate. There's a lot of little details in life when you're visually impaired or blind that's can be a little stressful, the little things.
Well, it's also honestly that, I think no matter what, I mean, I think a lot of your viewers probably can relate in terms of, you're like, oh yeah, I need garlic for that. And you buy garlic and you're like, oh man, I already had garlic.
Exactly. You got to keep a list and have extras. Someone told me just to buy one spice. I think it was Marshall's or TJ Maxx. She just buys one Mediterranean spice and then one Asian that has everything in it. And then maybe a few separate ones, like maybe a cumin and a garlic and a pepper and a salt. But I thought, that's a good way to do it because I have so many individual spices that I put my rack and I label them A through Z, A through L, and it's just really time consuming.
For you though. So I have now, I should have done this earlier, but I had to reach up and grab it. You probably saw the backs of my arms, but anyway, I have a tray that we're going to put our chicken on. And this is also this is a piece of pottery from Sostenuto Arts. And this is, I don't know, Eric, if you want to talk about them for a minute, the camera's over on.
Yeah, sure. So my sister, Erin, she lives just outside of Columbus, Ohio. She runs a business. She sells Polish pottery and literally buys it from Poland. And she and her husband, my brother-in-law, Craig, they lived in Warsaw, Poland for 4 years while they were teaching internationally, and have since moved back to the US about a decade ago and have continued teaching. And about 5 years ago, my sister Erin started Sostenuto Arts Polish Pottery as sort of a side business while she was teaching. And then this became her passion. And she's got her own shop and is growing her business by leaps and bounds every year. So this stuff is beautiful. Polish pottery you can put in the oven or in the freezer. You can put it in a dishwasher, but really you don't even need to dishwash because it's.
You mean scrub?
The way that, I'm sorry, to put it in the dishwasher. You can scrub it with just soap and warm water.
You don't need to saw it.
It's really cool. And it's beautiful stuff.
That sounds so interesting. Yeah.
It cooks beautifully. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for it to heat up in the oven. So you might want to add a few minutes to your cooking time. But it retains heat absolutely beautifully. So if you're going, it's great to use You know, I have tons of these dishes. I've got muffin pans, I've got trays like this one, I've got bakers like the one we're gonna put our potatoes in as well. And it's great for, you know, if you want to go to, you know, take food to a gathering, or, you know, for your Thanksgiving table. It's so beautiful. And you don't need, I mean, you don't need china.
Right.
It's just,
It's right one step from the oven to the table.
yeah, one step.
That's interesting. And you're lucky you get all that stuff from her.
Yes,
That's right.
it's great. We love it. And I've gotten rid of so many of my other baking dishes since
Yes, I would. Yeah, for sure.
what we're going to do is we're going to, I've got my butter mixture over here on the counter, and I'm going to let's see if I can move things around a little bit so I can do this. I'm going to dip my chicken legs into the butter mixture and roll it around a little bit. And then I'm going to put them on our tray here in order to cook them. Now, I could use tongs, and you know, many people probably do. But, you know, this is, I find it very difficult to, you know, the chicken in and of itself is slippery. Then you add butter to the mix, and then it's really slippery, and you're trying to hold on to it and use your hands to figure out where my tray is, where my pot is. So I'm just going to use my fingers. They are clean. So we're going to pick up a chicken leg here, and we're going to dip it in our butter. We're going to roll it around in here. And then we're going to put it on our tray. That's one. And we'll just do this until they're all coated. And delicious. There's two. And what I'm doing, I'm putting the chicken so each, you know, they're as I place them, they're kind of facing, like I've got the leg, the meat part pointed in one direction, and then to the right of it, I have it going the opposite way. I find they fit a little bit better on the tray. Do that. There's another one. Nice.
You don't have to coat your pan with anything because you have the butter, so it won't stick. So that's good.
Yes. All right. Which way are
It's
we?
funny, every time I lay chicken legs like that opposite each other, it reminds me, I just have to tell you this. Growing up with four sisters, we all slept in one bed. Well, maybe a couple of us didn't sleep in the same bed, but at least three of us. So we slept like that, head, toe, head, toe.
Oh my gosh.
Reminds me of the chicken legs.
That's hilarious. All right. We just got a few more to go here. Now my tray isn't, there we go. We'll place them that way. Two more now.
Great use of your tactile senses.
Yes.
I'm a little bit curious. Do you have your stove marked with the dots and things for the temperatures, or do you have a different way of figuring it out?
So I have little, they're not dots. I just put like little label like A's or B's in Braille and stuck them on the stuck them
Yeah, I got you.
at various points. So I've got them at like 350, 450. And that seems to work. Okay. We've placed all our chicken. Now I'm going to pick up the thing about raw chicken, obviously, when you're dealing with raw meat, you don't want it to come in contact with anything else. So we're going to put our cutting board in our sink. I'm going to toss our paper towel. I'm going to wash my hands because I had the chicken sitting on paper towel, so I had rinsed it off. So I had it placed on a cutting board, and so I'm going to wash my hands well now, and then we'll be ready to put the chicken in the oven, and we'll get a look at the finished product here.
The magic of Zoom. You make one and you make two of them, actually. You're going to be eating a lot of chicken before you leave for Florida.
Yeah. Yes.
That's why you want to have a recipe to begin with.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's a good one to have lots of because again, this chicken is great right out of the oven. It's great when it's cold.
Yeah,
The
take
next,
it with you.
so it's a great picnic food. All right, so I'm going to voila. Let's see here. Let's move. I'm gonna move this one out of the way. I'm gonna pick up this tray here and move it up there. And then I've got my UV gloves here, and I love these because they are nice and long. And there's, when you're reaching in way back in the oven, you're not going to get your arm on the edge there and have a little accident. Nobody wants that.
That's a
So-
great point. That's awesome. Those gloves are great.
So here we are. Oh, and my pan looks different. Oh, anyway, here's our chicken.
Show us your chicken, girl.
Let me
Let's
move this.
see.
I can almost smell that from here.
Let me
Renee,
move the,
can you tell her is it tilted okay towards the camera? Can everybody see it?
I need to move
Oh,
back in here. I'm gonna scoot it, hopefully so everybody can, so you can see it.
That's perfect. That's right in the center, I believe. Just tilt it up a little bit so we can see it. Okay, the other way. Yeah,
Other-
towards the camera, that way. Perfect, perfect. Okay, we can see it. Looks delicious. I wish we could smell it because I'm sure it smells awesome too with all that garlic. You know, but the final test, you know what it is, Rebecca, is you got to get your husband in here. Eric, you got to taste it. The taste test.
I'm
Tell us
talking.
what you think. Exaggerate. Make those
Okay.
smoking lips and just tell us how much you love it.
Do we have a good view of him here? Are you good there?
Even with this plaid shirt. Perfect.
Hi.
All right, here we go. This looks good.
All right. Everybody's watching you, Eric.
Mm.
Oh,
Oh, my
That's
God. Say,
Very
how long do you leave them in the oven again?
What was,
Rebecca, how long do you leave those chicken legs in the oven?
oh, I'm sorry. So they bake for about 30 to 35 minutes and you at 450 and you can baste them periodically during roasting. At the end, if you want if you want to crisp them up, you can also put them under the broiler. You need to obviously pay very close attention when you do this because that'll crisp them up quick. So what I will sometimes do is I'll turn on my broiler at the very end for about the last minute of the cooking time. And then I take it out and then I'll kind of, the way that, one way you can tell for chicken anyway, it kind of has a different smell to it in terms of it when it's done. The other way in terms of, if it has the texture that you want from a crispness perspective, I just kind of touch it with my finger. I mean, let's be honest, sometimes you can't, when you can't see, you can't look at it. So you have to touch it. But we cook with clean hands around here. So this is how we roll.
Those are really good.
Yeah.
save your wife some, would you please?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Rebecca. You were awesome in explaining the descriptive way that you make the chicken legs and all the safety tips you had along the way, and you do it so naturally and make it seem very easy. So anybody can do it. We want to thank you so much for coming on today and cooking for us.
Well, thank you for having us. This was really, really fun. And now we get to eat lots of chicken, so we're happy.
Sounds good. Thank you again.
Sure.
Alan, take it away.
Well, let's see. We are introducing. Let's see. I can taste that stuff from here, Annette. And now it's a little time to learn a little bit more about the American Council of the Blind.
Yes, I definitely want to hear about that because they do have a membership. And so we know who's going to come on and tell us about that. We're going to reintroduce, ladies and gentlemen, is Eric Bridges. He is the executive director of the ACB. And the ACB, American Council of the Blind, has been around for over 60 years. And he's been there about 14 years. And we welcome you back, Eric.
Thank
Come
you.
on down. Wash your hands from the chicken and come on down. There you go. Before we really get started, I'm going to ask you a couple important questions about your organization. But I just wanted to tell our audience, when your podcast aired, it had the most downloads than any podcast. It's like over 281 downloads of your podcast. So that's very impressive. Everybody enjoyed what you had to say and talking about the American Council. So we want to hear again, for those who did not hear your podcast, tell us about the 60 years of their mission of the ACB. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're a member-driven organization. We are of the blindness community. So we've got, members literally in every state around the country, including Florida, where this show is based, the Florida Council of the Blind. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary. And, really we exist to promote the independence and security and overall success of people who are blind or visually impaired, going out into the world. And so, a lot of our work has really come through the lens of advocacy over these last 60 years, and it continues today. Much of our work centers around, in one way or another, the umbrella of technology. Look at what we're doing right now, guys, right?
Yes, exactly.
We're using, at least on this end, we're using an iPhone, utilizing Zoom, and we're able to do this. We're able to have a really fun, cool cooking show experience.
Yeah.
The iPhone is accessible. All Apple devices are accessible. Zoom is accessible. Lots of other things are accessible, and the American Council of the Blind has played a role in all of that down through the year, either through legislative victories like the 21st Century Communications and Video Accessibility Act, which brought us a lot more audio described TV shows and movies. But then also through the relationships that we've been able to build with corporate America, companies like Microsoft and JP Morgan Chase and others. So, the technology component and the advocacy work that we've done continues on. And a lot of it is attributed to the sort of the collaborative spirit and culture of the organization, where we want to work to help solve problems. And so, doing outreach to companies or to state agencies or, other nonprofits to solve the problems of the day, voting, for example, and being able to work on accessible voting out in the states, like in Florida and North Carolina and other states, being able to do, remote voting like the military does. We've been successful in working with some states to be able to do that for folks who are blind or visually impaired. So there's a ton of work that has gone on. Obviously, there's much more that needs to happen. There's a reason why we're still around, right? Not everything in the world is built for our population. Not everything in the world is accessible to us. There's still unfortunate things that happen to folks who are blind or visually impaired. And to be quite frank with you, one of the largest challenges that we still encounter is low expectations by society for what it is we can do. And so, at a macro level, that is something that we're wanting to change, and doing that, by having the sighted community see us doing what it is they do every day, right? So whether it's going to work, whether it's eating at a restaurant, whether it's getting on a Peloton and riding for 20 miles or whatever, these are all things the sighted community does. We're doing it. Not enough of us are engaged in all of these activities, and we're trying to work with our partners and frankly our membership to figure out how to solve some of these large problems.
That is so needed. And that's amazing. I love it because there's so much going on behind the scenes that we don't literally see or hear about as far as accessibility. You're talking about like something like a QR code. That's amazing. I don't know if you guys had a part in that, but it makes it so easy when you go to a restaurant now. You could just, take an automatic photo of that and get your whole menu there. So you could tell, what you're going to choose to eat. That's something really important as well.
Absolutely. Stuff like that, working with the rideshare companies to ensure that their apps are accessible. Transportation is a persistent challenge for our community. Being able to utilize Lyft and Uber has been a big game changer for us. Especially for folks that use guide dogs, that has been challenging at times. I can say that for my own self, as well as my wife and many other people with an ACB and blind people in general at times, with drivers understanding the rights of a service dog, right?
Right. I forgot to ask you, you both have service dogs as well?
We do. They are upstairs right now. They would be playing right here in the kitchen. And the fur would be literally flying. But yeah, they're
Eric, I got a question for you. Is there any progress being made on visually impaired people legally being able to drive driverless cars? Is there any progress down those lines?
Not, the whole
being able to use the cars is what I mean.
Right. So the whole autonomous vehicle sector had sort of here we go using words again, sort of stalled a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic, right? Now what you're seeing is certain municipalities, I believe San Francisco is allowing for completely autonomous shuttles to be operated. We have really good relationships with companies like Cruise Automotive, General Motors, and Waymo. All three of them have advanced autonomous vehicle technology and have spoken with them about the need for those vehicles to be accessible to us, right? Because I think the running theory is that those vehicles, when they're made to be fully autonomous and allowed for, passengers to come, would be used on more like a rideshare standpoint. So you wouldn't, at least in the beginning, necessarily buy one. You would essentially rent one or use it like an Uber. And so, for us to be able to use the app or whatever in-vehicle systems there are is really quite important. The other component of it is the first 50 feet and the last 50 feet, right? So the first 50 feet is actually finding the vehicle.
Yes.
Right? It's always.
And then finding the door once you get out.
Bingo, and that's the last 50 feet, right? Sometimes the address and the entrance are not, they're not square, right? So.
But that's why you have a guide dog, right?
Well, there is that. The guide dog is going to be very helpful, yes. But, utilizing other navigation technologies to be able to potentially assist with some of that stuff. We've had discussions and continue to have really good discussions with companies like Cruise and Waymo around this subject.
Good. I'm glad to hear there's something being done. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alan. Practically speaking now, okay, you have membership all over the country. I want to be a member. How much does it cost? What will it give me? Everybody wants to know, what's it going to do for me if I become a member? Do I have a hotline that I can call? What are some of the practical benefits as a member that a person would get from the ACB?
Sure, you can join it. It's like, I don't know, it's less than ordering a pizza from Pizza Hut. Annually. Literally, it's a great deal. It's I believe it's $10 to join as a member at large. It gives you access, for early registration for our convention. It allows you to be able to take a look at all of the affiliates that we've got, state special interest. We also have, state affiliate membership or special interest member of affiliate membership. So we've got special interest affiliates like Guide Dog Users Incorporated, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. The sort of the interest areas within the blindness field. So visually impaired attorneys, ACB teachers,
Friends in art.
ACB Next Generation, which tends to cater to folks in their mid-20s through about 40 or early 40s. ACB students, which is what I belong to and Rebecca belonged to when we were in college, and a host of others. And then, state affiliates like Florida, the Bay State Council in Massachusetts. I saw someone was on watching here from there, the California Council of the Blind, and, on and on. So a tremendous amount of good stuff. The other thing that I would just say is we've built an entire virtual community during the pandemic. And I would love to encourage your viewers to engage with us in that regard. You can go to acb.org to join as a member at large, and would encourage you all to do that. It's on the homepage. But please take a look at our community events. In March of, yes, we'll get there. In March of 2020, we created what has become this big, beautiful platform for our members in the broader blind community to come and talk about any number of different subject matter. It's been a way for us to be able to connect while we've had to be virtual. We use Zoom. There are at least 85 to 90 of these community events held every week. We've held over 6,000 of them since the sort of the inception of this week of March 16, 2020. We've had over 125,000 individuals participate.
Wow.
And the beauty of this, guys, is that the attendees are blind or visually impaired. The subject matters, so in other words, the facilitators that are talking about, it could be a recipe swap, it could be a peer support group like widows and widowers or divorcees, or it could be a trivia show like like Playtime. It's Playtime is what it's called every Friday night, or karaoke. All that stuff is facilitated by blind people, and it's also managed and hosted on the back end by blind people. So we've trained over 150 blind or visually impaired folks to facilitate and or host, and then also to stream a lot of this content through ACB Media, acbmedia.org, which is our internet radio website, which is fantastic. So, and all you have to do in order to access this is go to acbmedia.org, or you can tell your Echo to play ACB Media, and it will ask you what channel 1 through 10. And really the first 5 channels are the ones that have regular up-to-date programming on them. And it's just so cool.
Yes. Sounds amazing. We're going to have to check that out for sure. So the convention this year, Eric, is that going to be in person or is it going to be a Zoom convention?
So we've designed it to be a hybrid convention. So what we went in 20 and 21 when we had to be virtual was a significant uptick in attendance. Some of it, I think, had to do with the fact that people weren't having to spend money to come and be with us for a week, right? But we were also hitting different demographics, and frankly, it was more global participation, literally people from other countries. Wow. So we're going to be in Omaha this summer at the Hilton downtown, but we're going to have a virtual component utilizing Zoom to be able to access. So there's going to be registration and all that stuff. So it'll be good. And at that convention, there's going to be scholarship recognition of our scholarship winners. We've got a scholarship program that Rebecca, she just left. Rebecca is the chair of the scholarship program.
I'm here.
And here you are.
I'm sorry.
No
I
problem.
was checking on the 7-year-old and it's.
Okay.
Yeah, we have, ACB has about at least 20 or so scholarships that we award each year to students pursuing post-secondary education. We do this through a variety of different partnerships. So we've partnered with the American Foundation for the Blind to facilitate the awarding of some scholarships. So some of them we give away in partnership with, we award in partnership with AFB. We also have, private donors, whether they, like individuals who have donated for specific, to specific scholarships. And we also, some of our state affiliates or even special interest affiliates will sponsor scholarships. So, and each scholarship has various, different selection criteria. So for example, some might require that you are majoring in business, or another one might be the arts. There might be some different requirements, but in general, you only apply once. So we are in a scholarship application season right now. The application is available at acb.org. You can fill it out through the end of the day on February, I should know this, 15th.
Yes.
11:59 Central Time. So for any of you procrastinators out there, so yeah, it's available. You fill it out one time. So basically once you submit and you put your application in, our scholarship committee goes through and reviews every application one by one. And the applications are sorted based on, we have subcommittees who are responsible for reviewing applications for the various scholarships. So with 20 scholarships, you can't have not every committee member maybe reviews every scholarship. So we've got everything broken down, and we go through a process and we do interviews, and then we select our winners. And those who are recipients, I think the amount is anywhere between $2,500 and $7,500 per scholarship, depending on which scholarship you are the recipient of. In addition to that, though, you also get an opportunity to attend our annual conference and convention of ACB free of charge. So you get a per diem if you're there in person. You get your room paid for, etc., your airfare, and so on. So it's a really exciting program. It's a great way for ACB to give back, help our students, pursue their goals, and they can use the funds, whether for tuition, or for other things associated with their education. So for example, we've had people use it to pay for assistive technology. We've had recipients, we had one this past year who used it to fund a portion of her postdoctoral research. So it's really, really an exciting program, and it's a really great program that ACB offers.
ACB sounds absolutely amazing. I'm going to definitely join. Not tonight, probably sometime this weekend. And I want to just learn. There's so much on your website, I'm sure. And I bet you have a lot of plans in 2022 of something special thing. Anything new coming up in 2022? You talked about the convention, but anything else that you have coming up?
Well, we've got, the challenge with the quote new stuff is the pandemic. Trying to hold things in person.
Sure. Yeah.
We've got some plans to hold a couple of physical events this year. for our Get Up and Get Moving campaign, which is really about, getting blind people more active and out in the world.
Yeah, you were saying about the Peloton. Has ACB have been instrumental in making that Peloton accessible to the blind or visually impaired? Because I have one and I can't use it because I can't see all the little things it tells me to do, and it does a lot. It does everything but, cook chicken legs. I think this thing is amazing, but
Yes.
I can't really see it. Do you
Yeah.
guys all-
The basically the screen is just it's a tablet that runs Android, right? Google Android. And worked with them in the summer of 2020 to make it work to bring out the native accessibility that was in there but not turned on, and to have it work with the actual tablet. So yes, and we can get you specifics on how to activate that if you want to send me
that's something new. And you're saying, well, with COVID, it's made some restrictions to something new, but you said earlier that this has allowed you to become more global. And the same thing with our cooking show. I mean, we've had guests on from South Africa, the Bahamas, everywhere, all over the world. And you've been able to attract new members from all over the world with the Zoom. So that's a real positive thing.
It is. And just real quick, if folks are interested in the community events and getting a daily email, we're not going to clutter your inbox. It's one email a day. You can go to send an email to community@acb.org, and you'll be put on the list to look at. Every evening, actually, you'll get an email for the next day with all of the events, the Zoom links, or if you don't use the Zoom app or the website, there's also phone numbers in there as well.
Well, great. So Eric, there's so much information on there. We just want to see if there's anything else you want to leave us with to encourage or motivate or inspire our audience, which you have already. But just in closing, what would you have to say about your organization or anything that you're doing in the what I want to say, area of blindness?
Sure. Well, I'm just excited. We're a growing organization from a membership perspective. We've grown from a staffing perspective because the board of directors feels like if we're able to invest strategically in people to work alongside our members, we're going to be able to do a lot more, and that's certainly what we've seen in particular over the last couple of years. I'm particularly proud of how we've been able to adapt and adjust to the virtual environment, and how we've been able to connect with a lot more people, as you were saying. It's our expectation that that's only going to continue to grow and evolve. The one thing that I hear from a lot of people is they miss being around one another. And, I'm looking forward very much to our convention this summer. It's in the middle of the country and it's fairly easy to get to for most parts of the country. And so, I'm hoping that a lot of folks come in person. I understand that a lot of folks will attend virtually, and that's just fine. But I think a lot of us are just missing being around one another.
Definitely. That's even more encouraging to be able to hug somebody, shake their hand. That's what you want to do in the future. And it'll happen again. It's happening now a little bit. We all have to just get over this Omicron. It's going to be like herd immunity. Just get it and be done with it and get some antibodies or whatever. But I wanted to thank you, Eric. Thank you, Rebecca. And Tyler, I don't know where you went, but tell him we said thank you. We couldn't do it without him. And next time you come on, bring Noah.
Will do.
A bit older, you could put him in a little high chair over there. He could give you less instructions on what to do next. Thank you so much for being with us. Really enjoyed you and your information. And I know you're going to get a lot more members from this, and we appreciate you sharing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Eric and Rebecca, you guys are an inspiration, not only to other blind parents, but to parents every place. You guys are great. I'd like to know if anybody in our audience has any questions for Eric or Rebecca. And just remind you guys to check out today's recipe for the spicy roasted chicken legs at our website at www.acb.org. www.cookingwithoutlooking.tv.wordpress.com. And also remember our motto, we're changing the way we see blindness. For sponsorship information, please contact 305 200-9104. I should have my magnifier with me. Do we have any questions from our audience right now?
Not necessarily a question. I just wanted to say hi to Eric. Eric, this is Chad Brown from Iowa. Knew you back in high school when you
Oh my
attended
gosh. How are
the
you?
summer
Yeah.
program. So interested to try that chicken. I enjoy cooking myself. So I work for the Iowa Educational Services. I'm the assistive technology consultant now.
Oh
So
my God. You were a house parent, right? For the
back in the day, yeah, back when I was in
Work? Yeah.
college, you were a student
God.
there. Yep. Did a long time. So good job today, guys.
It's good to see
Thank you,
you.
sir. Thank you for joining us.
Do we have any other questions from our audience? Okay. Once again, I would like to remind everybody about our website where you can get the chicken recipe. That's www.cookingwithoutlooking.tv.wordpress.com. And also remember, for sponsorship information, you can call us at 305-200-9104. And I'd like to give a special thank you today to Attorney Benjamin Crump for his kind sponsorship of our show. Thank you very much for sponsoring our show today. If you enjoy watching our Cooking Without Looking TV show, listen to our podcast, please go to our website. Again, Cooking Without Looking TV at wordpress.com and click on Vision World Foundation link to donate. Annette, you and all of us at Cooking Without Looking, Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year, everyone. Lots of good health in the new year.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.